Yo, today on this video we are going to be talking about discovery calls. So I'm going to be running you through my exact word by word, step by step discovery call script for closing agency deals and all that stuff. So it's going to be great. And a lot of people, a lot of agency owners, especially if they are not super sales savvy, they don't really understand the value of a discovery call. They think it's just a formality and it's just for like qualification purposes. And yeah, 100%, it is for qualification purposes. But I think, at least in my own opinion, discovery calls have massive amounts of weight. If you do a good discovery call, the demo call or the closing call is going to be a million times easier afterwards. And I truly believe that you can have like a bigger impact with the discovery call than with the actual pitch. You know, like if you have a good disco, like the pitch is gonna be super easy. But if you have a bad disco, no matter how well you pitch, how good your offer is, yada yada yada, you're not gonna close any deals. You're not gonna be making any money. So after you watch this, you can just take this structure, implement it in your agency, and you will make more money. Unless you are, I'm not gonna say, but you know what I mean. Also, before we get into it. Of course, if you run a marketing agency and you want to scale your marketing agency, work one-on-one with me and my team, go check out Agent Velocity from the link in description. Go book a call with me. We guarantee you $10,000 in new monthly recurring revenue in 24 weeks or you do not pay. So it's a pretty good deal. Go check that out. Book a demo call with me. But yeah, so this is like our internal sales SOP, whatever, or like something there I have gathered all these scripts. So we're gonna, or like structures, and we're gonna just run through it. One thing that I just want to mention before we get into it is I think like I'm not a massive fan of sales scripts. Like you shouldn't take this and repeat it word by word with a prospect on a call. You're gonna sound robotic, unauthentic, unnatural. You're gonna sound like you're reading from a script, and that's gonna destroy you the trust, because why would you need to read from a script if you are actually an expert and trying to help them? So do not just read this word by word, or you can, I don't care, but I recommend you don't, because again, it's gonna make you less money. So just take the structures, take the concepts, take the like language patterns, and then say it in your own words. It's a pretty simple process. So discovery calls. This is going to be the first call of the process. So if you don't know, like at least in my opinion, the best sales process is going to be 2-call process, sometimes even 3 in some markets. But you do first a discovery call where you qualify the prospect, you understand their situation, and you amplify their pains and all this stuff that we're going to be talking about today. And then if they're qualified and if everything looks good, you book a demo call with them a few days into the future or 1 day into the future where you present them with the pitch, you close them, you handle objections, yada, yada, yada. So this is going to be a discovery process of this, and if this video does well, and if you comment down below or do something, maybe I'll do one about the demo call as well. So this is going to be the first call of the process, and the main goal of the discovery call is to understand the prospect situation better, because with this information we can qualify them and pitch their actual pain points. Every single pitch should be always tailored, and when we have a good discovery call, we can do that. The discovery call is split into 7 different steps spread over 30 minutes. We usually run 30-minute discos. You can do shorter, you can do longer. Again, there's no rules to this, but we have seen that 30 minutes is really great. And these are pretty much all the steps that are included here. And we're going to run through them here. So the first thing that you're going to do, as you can see, you're going to greet the prospect and connect. This is going to take on average 2 minutes. This part of the call is flexible and it should not be forced. Again, if you're trying to force small talk, you're going to sound like an idiot. When you're meeting the prospect for the first time, it's great to invest a minute or two to find a small connection with the prospect, to build a rapport. Don't fall in the trap of spending 5 minutes talking about the weather and forcing the prospect to ask to start the call, because this gives an unprofessional image of you and usually causes you to lose frame. Like if the prospect has to say, okay, should we get into it? Like you have fucked up. Casually just greet the prospect and introduce yourself. You can quickly ask them where they are from, how the day has been, or engage in a bit of chit chat. Don't spend too much time on this and maintain the control of the call. Don't act overly enthusiastic or smile and laugh about everything, you know, like don't be like a hyena. Like sometimes salespeople do this and they have this really bad fake energy. Don't do that. You're here to diagnose their problem. Your time is valuable and this is serious. You're not here to make friends. You know, the prospect is here not making friends. You are not here to make friends. You're here to make some money together or save them money or just help them in their life. So, you know, no need to laugh and fucking giggle about some dumb shit. Of course, if the prospect starts the call with high energy, you can match their energy to build more rapport. So if the prospect is really outgoing, high energy, they laugh, they joke around, they talk about whatever, you can match the energy and build rapport. Otherwise, you might break the rapport if you can't match it. But like, just make sure that you don't start talking about some dumb shit. And once you create the prospect and engage in a bit of a small talk, transition the topic of the call with something along the lines of, okay, John, you ready to start? So usually, hey man, really nice to meet you. My name is Leevi. We talked over email. We talked over whatever. How you doing? Where are you based? I'm based in Austin, Texas. Great. How's life in Austin, Texas? What you been up to there? We just went fishing with some buddies at the lake and it's pretty hot. Boom. That's super sick. So, John, you ready to start? That's it. If they are super like, yeah, man, like I got this really big fish and this fish was really cool, you can like match the energy and you can like lean a little bit more into it. But again, remember, this is a call where we're diagnosing a problem. This is not some fucking yapping session. Then you need to set the agenda. This is one of those things that I see so many people mess up. They have a really random start to the call. I review a lot of like sales recordings for other agencies that we consult. So a lot of people forget this for some reason, even though this is giga important. The second part of the call is short, simple, and extremely important. Before we start asking our discovery questions from the prospect, we first have to ensure that the prospect is in the right state of mind. Otherwise, there's a risk that the prospect doesn't give you high quality answers, isn't engaged, or tries to control the call. You know, if the prospect just thinks that the discovery call is a formality and it's just like a step that they have to complete to get the price, again, you're not going to get anything out of them. They're not going to be engaged. And they just want to like rush through it, which is not good. We do this by directly stating what the purpose of the call is, how it's going to be structured, and what's going to happen at the end. We are setting our own rules. After we set the agenda from the call, we ask the prospect if these quote-unquote rules are okay with them. If they do not agree, they'll automatically be disqualified. Or you can a little bit like push back on it, handle an objection, but this is your call, these are your rules, this is your process. If you lose the control of the call immediately, like minute 3 of the sales call, you're not going to close them anyway. So you're just better off saving the time and leaving the call. This way, we ensure that in each call, we have the highest possible chance of closing the deal. And this is what it could sound like. Again, an example. So, like I mentioned in my email, the purpose of this call is to go over your current situation. Based on this, I can assess if it would be a good fit to help you out. Because of this, in this call, there will be no pitching, prices, or any kind of negotiation. You won't be able to buy anything here. The call is purely going to be focused on you. So again, here we are also like, naturally, when people are in a sales call, they have their like walls up and they have this like guard up. So then when you mention this, that, hey, there's no pitches, no closes, nothing in this call, they're able to drop these walls down a little bit and again, just be more direct and authentic with their answers. At the end of the call, if I feel that there's potential for partnership, we'll schedule another call later this week and we'll go over exactly how our service works, the price, the timeframes, and everything else you need to know to make an informed decision. Does this work for you? Boom. There are multiple ways of setting the agenda. Make sure no matter what you say it in your own words. This way you don't sound like you're reading off a script. If you just go and read this word by word, like this is written like how I would say it, pretty much how I would say it. So make sure that you modify it to your own understanding. If you want to ensure you have, I'm missing a word here. If you want to ensure you have full control of the call from the beginning, you can even say, so like I mentioned in my email, the purpose of the call is to go over a current situation. Based on this, I can tell you if this is a project we'd be interested in taking on. Sometimes this is a frame that you want to use. Since we're strict on who we work with, would it be helpful if we first went over the 3 main reasons why we turn companies down? So this is like a massive power frame immediately from the beginning of the call. Hey, let's just see if this is something that we'd be interested in doing. Would it be helpful if I first tell you why we normally don't take companies on? And then you can go listing all the main things you don't want in a prospect. So, for example, we usually disqualify people if they're just looking for the cheapest thing in the market. They're not ready to give up control. They're not fast decision makers, yada, yada, yada. So again, this is what we're looking for in the call. And then this gives the prospect the frame that, hey, if you like, first of all, really high status for you, but also you can prevent all of these things later down in the process. And I only use this approach if you know how sales frames work and you're more experienced. This is not a beginner-friendly approach to take because you don't know how to keep the frame up and you're going to just mess it up. If for some reason the prospect doesn't agree to this agenda and says something, actually I was really looking forward to getting the price of on this call, you just handle the objection normally and ask for the confirmation to continue again. So for example, yeah, John, I totally get it. Price is obviously a big part of the decision-making process, but unfortunately, our pricing is always dependent on your current situation and the scope of the projects. So since I haven't had the opportunity to hear about your business or propose or create a proposal for you, I can only tell you that our prices range from $500 to $50,000, and then you're gonna laugh. Ha 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 ha. So once we've gone through the discovery process and I've had the chance to plan something out for you, I will be able to give you a bit of a more accurate price. Is that fair? Boom. So if the prospect keeps pushing back on the agenda, tell them that this is your process, and if it doesn't work, you'll have to end the call. Again, if you can't control the sales process, like your odds of actually closing the prospect go from whatever your normal closing rate is, 25% to fucking 3%. So you're just spending your time really inefficiently being in that call. Again, some giga sales Chad could maybe disagree with me, but that's just how I found it. It's really rare to close those deals. So set the agenda. Tell them how it's going to be. Yo, this is what we're going to do in this call. Then we go into discovery questions, and obviously because the discovery call is going to take the majority of the time dedicated for the call, naturally, this is the most important part of the whole call. Many salespeople treat the discovery phase as more of a formality, when in fact it's where a lot of the progress through the sales process will be made. You are going to be like pushing them down the line a lot in this process. So through the discovery questions, you'll be able to build trust and rapport with the prospect, determine if the prospect is qualified or not, gather more information that's going to be used later when closing the prospect, and find out amazing market insights to further improve your offer and marketing. And also something that I haven't written here, but what you also do during the discovery call is you can amplify pains and create urgency. And this goes into another topic, which is like buyers in power and buyers in need. Maybe we'll talk about that later as well. It's pretty sick. But you can do that throughout the discovery questions, like make them actually realize how much they need it. And I'll go about it in a second. It's really one of the most impactful parts of the sales process when done correctly. For most people, it's not, because you just go and you read like 5 bullet point questions that you have written down, and you just ask, you pretty much are trying to determine if they have money or not, so you can pitch your service. But yeah, your discovery questions are going to fall under 5 different categories: current situation, future situation, problem isolation, money, and authority. Through these different questions, your goal is to identify where they are now, where they want to be in the future, and what is holding them back. And once you've identified the gap between where they want to be and where they are right now, you'll make sure that they can afford your offer and have the authority to buy it. There might be some additional questions that are necessary to know to sell your offer, but ensure that these things get asked each time. So if you sell, let's say you sell ad creatives for e-commerce stores, you might need to understand about their LTV or conversion rates or AOV or fucking whatever, how they run their backend or how they set up their pixel or whatever, or if you run whatever, there's always going to be like specific things for specific services. And here's an example of list of discovery questions for a B2B lead generation offer. So let's see what we have here. Yeah. Let's make this a little bit bigger. It's completely fine also not to ask each question that you have in mind. Just make sure that you get the most important ones. So for example, you could first ask, what does your customer avatar looks like? You always want to make sure that you start with a really quick and easy first question, because at this point, they still have like a little bit of their guardrails up. You can't immediately start about asking them like about how much money they make. But humans get used to these kind of patterns really easy. So as your questions go, or as you ask more questions, you can make them more personal and more invasive. Maybe that's not the right word, but you can start asking about like more personal stuff, because people get numb to the idea of answering these questions. So you always want to ask easy questions first, and then go to medium questions, and then hard questions, and then like fucking giga hard questions if you have them. But yeah, always make sure that if you get like bad answers, if you ask like, hey, what does your customer avatar look like? And they say like, yeah, just like basic SMB companies, like make sure you expand on that. Okay, what kind of companies are usually interested in your solution? Is there any specific criteria? Are there any clear similarities between your best clients? So always, if you get like bad answers, like expand on it. What problem are you solving for these people? What is your pricing model for this solution? How are you generating leads currently? What is your current average cost per lead? How are you converting these leads? So we're again trying to just find their current state right now, just like where they are right now. Okay, future situation in the next 6 to 12 months, where do you want your monthly revenue to be? How many leads per month do you need to get to that goal? Pretty basic. How many prospects do you need to reach out to reach that goal? And then problem isolation. Okay, great. What is stopping you in your own honest opinion from hitting this goal on your own? How soon do you want to solve this problem? What happens if you don't solve it in the time frame? I know that some problems are more important than others. How committed to solving this are you? Is it a threat level 1 or more of a back burner thing? So then you can also like create or like see what is their level of urgency and level of importance for this one thing. And here, like in problem isolation stage, you can also, once you've figured out like their current situation and where they want to be, and you're isolating the problem, what you can do is you can ask them like, hey, why did you open the call? Yada, yada, yada. You go through current situation, you go through future situation. Okay, great. So why do you think you haven't hit this goal? How important it is to hit that goal? Why is it so important? Okay, great. Do you think that this is something that you're going to be looking at 2027, or is it something that you need to start looking at right now? So you're like expanding the extreme between these. They say, yeah, probably like more right now. Okay, why right now? Why is it important that you're looking at it right now and not in 2 years? How would that impact the business in the next few years if you solve this right now? And you're pretty much like just running them through these like current situation, current urgency, current problem questions. So then like they tell you why it's important to them. Because it's like a lot of salespeople make the mistake, or agency owners, whatever, in sales calls make the mistake that they state out the obvious. So to me, it sounds like this is something that you need to solve right now. Would you say that I'm correct? And yeah, that's great. That's better than doing nothing. But it's 1,000 times better if the prospect says it. So if you get the prospect to say that they need it right now, that's like 1,000,000 times stronger because they trust themselves more. So, okay, do you think that this is something that you should be solving right now, or is it more maybe in 2 years kind of thing? And they say, yeah, probably right now. Okay, great. Why is it important that you solve it right now? Like, what would happen if you didn't solve it? And I'm not massive fan of like all these NEPQ fucking mind manipulation question frameworks, but I think this is just like really powerful to just get them to understand why it's important right now. But I wouldn't talk about like, okay, what would happen to your family if you didn't fucking, like that's bullshit. After you have done the current situation, future situation, problem isolation, just quickly money, hypothetically speaking, if you could help you hit your growth goal and solve this problem, are you able to invest at least whatever, assuming of course we can actually move the needle for you. So if you have a full pipeline and you already have like good traction and you're getting a bunch of calls, I would just qualify for budget in the discovery call. But if you don't have like a full pipeline, if you're more in the beginning stages, I wouldn't do this. I would maybe just a little bit probe what kind of budget they have for this, because when you ask this question, these people haven't seen your offer and haven't seen your pitch. So some people are going to say no, even though they would have the money. But you're going to have like more efficient calls. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. And authority, and last question, full transparency, are you the person who pulls the triggers, or are there any other decision makers that need to sign off if you opt in to move forward? So you're just seeing if there's any decision makers, and you might have to invite them into the demo call. And then you have kind of like do like extra questions for further qualification, because in some cases, even after your main discovery questions, you won't be 100% sure if the prospect is someone who you want to work with. In those cases, you can ask additional questions about their expectations. So just to see like what they're expecting. Usually like the bad client situations come when the expectations do not match the service provided. They clash. So then the other party feels scammed. It can be like, it can go both ways. So then you can like see what they are actually expecting. In an ideal world, what would our collaboration look like? What would count as success for you if we work together? And then someone might say like, yeah, if you book 1,000 calls a month, like that would be great. Then you know that, okay, there's unrealistic expectations. We have to solve this first before we go into the demo. Are you open to experimenting with different marketing angles and strategies? Yada, yada, yada. After you have done the discovery calls, to improve your frame, have better control of the call, you can ask the discovery questions with a disqualifying tone. For example, after prospect has told you about their amazing SDR team who's generating a lot of high quality leads for you, like they say, yeah, we have this SDR team and they're booking us like fucking 100 meetings a month. You can say like, John, it sounds like you have everything figured out pretty well. Why wouldn't you just keep doing that? Like, why do you even need our help? Like, it sounds like you already got it figured out. And this forces the prospect to qualify themselves to you instead of you having to compete against their superstar SDR team. Because like if they mention that we have this fucking killer SDR team that gets us 100 calls a month and you just like don't address it, then later down in the sales process, this might become an objection. And they say, yeah, but our SDR team is cheaper and they're booking us more calls. Like we don't want to do this because we haven't addressed that objection. Like it was like a small thing in the discovery call that could have been like addressed really fast, and now it's like this big massive objection when you're trying to close the prospect. So for example, if they are telling you these kind of things, you can just like literally try to disqualify them. It's like, okay, John, like it sounds like you have it all figured out. Like why wouldn't you just doing that? Like why do you need our help? So then they have to tell you, the SDR team, it's not that scalable. It's pretty hard to fucking get these SDRs, yada, yada. Managing them is a pain. So then if they later down the line, they pull the SDR team, for example, as an objection, you can say like, yeah, but John, you said yourself, like it's fucking pain to manage. Like you don't want to keep doing that anymore. So you have to pay attention to these things. And this is just, of course, one example. And sometimes the prospect says like, yeah, that's true. Like we don't need your service. We are going to keep working with SDRs. That's fucking fine. Like you probably would have not closed that deal anyways because they already had this superstar SDR team that they were comparing you to. It also forces the prospect to admit they need help and something has to change. And this is extremely powerful because the first step of the buying process is admitting that they need change. Like you will never buy anything if you don't think that you need something to change. So if you get them to admit that something has to change, that starts the buying process. Because then they also go into the buying mindset of, okay, I'm actually looking for change. So again, you get them to say the words themselves that they need help and they need something to change. Boom! After you run through your discovery calls and discovery questions, if the prospect is qualified, your job is to book them into a demo call. Many beginners get nervous here and lose the frame to the prospect. The prospect might tell them, hey, yeah, send me some information over email or whatever. Just explain, like we have 2 minutes left, just explain to me like how your pricing works, whatever. These are all massive mistakes and will cost you the sale 95% of the time. In this step, we want to just use the assumption frame. So instead of asking, hey, would you like to schedule another meeting later this week? We just assume that of course they want another meeting and we just go straight into scheduling. For example, by saying, okay, great, sounds like we can definitely help you with that and we can for sure fix problems X, Y, and Z and get you end results A, B, and C. Like I said in the beginning of the call, this was just a discovery session to see what your current situation is and determine if we can help. So in our next call, we'll go exactly what it looks like to work with us, yada, 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 pricing, offer, all that stuff. So would tomorrow 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. work better? You're just assuming. Assumption frame is super powerful. You get a lot of like the amount of like discos to demos that convert through this framework is fucking nasty. If the prospect gives you pushback on this, treat it as a normal objection again. Agree with the prospect, loop them through more information and ask your closing question again. So for example, actually, could you send me your pricing information or an offer via email so we can think about it before we schedule another call? Yeah, John, I 100% understand. So every single time when you're handling objections, you agree with them. Yeah, John, I 100% understand where you're coming from. But as I mentioned in the beginning of the call, we'll create a custom proposal for you based on what we just discussed. And it is crucial for us to be able to walk you through it to make sure we are all aligned before making any decisions. So is 2 p.m. tomorrow good? Boom. We have to know the price before the call so we know if it's in our budget. I get you. Is there some specific budget you have in mind? This way I can take it into consideration when creating a proposal for tomorrow. Boom, 2 p.m., yada, yada, yada. Then after you have booked in the meeting, clarify the next steps, 2 minutes. And also like you have already gotten like agreement about this in the beginning of the call. If you set the agenda, you told them that you're going to book the second meeting. So you're really rarely going to get pushback here. And if you do get it, it's probably not a client that you want to work with anyways. There's a great saying in sales. So clarifying next steps. There's a great saying in sales that a confused prospect never buys. Nothing is more annoying than trying to buy an offer, but not being 100% sure how it works, what happens next, or who you'll be talking to and when you will be talking to and where you'll talk to them, yada, yada, yada. So because of this, I'm a massive fan of providing prospects with extreme clarity during the process. This shows professionalism and makes it easier for the prospect to make decisions. So once you book the demo call in, make sure you clearly go over when the next call will be, who's the next call will be with, what is the agenda of the next call, what happens between this and the next call, what happens after the next call. So just give them fucking all the information. So for example, great. So just to summarize everything, we've now gone over your current situation, your goals, and seeing that this would be a project we will gladly take on. Based on the information you provided, we'll create a custom proposal, an action plan tailored specifically to your situation. We'll go over this proposal and action plan on our next call tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST. I'll be there myself walking you through it. At the end of the next call, once we've gone over everything, we'll be making a clear yes or no decision on if we'll be moving forward with this project. I'll send you also all the notes, call recordings, and next steps via email in a few minutes. Are there any questions about this? Boom. Fucking extreme clarity. And then post-discovery call action. So a lot of people, they do the disco and they press fucking end call and that's it for them. Maybe they write something in their CRM. But you can again have a massive impact by spending 5 minutes post-disco. So after the discovery call, take a few minutes to send summary email to the prospect based on the call. And in this email, just go over what you just talked about in few bullet points, recording and transcription of the discovery call, for example, Fathom AI, and the next steps when you'll have the next call, who's in that call, the agenda, etc. This again shows professionalism and good salesmanship, and people trust you more and they buy from you more. So, as I said, this is the discovery process of a 2-call sales process. Sometimes we do even 3. And I have all the similar breakdown for the demo call. So maybe I'll make a video about that another date. If you comment something in the comment section, we might do that. And as always, if you run a marketing agency, go check out the Angel Velocity from the link in bio. Book a call with me and let's see if we can scale your business. And like and subscribe, all that stuff. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye.